The other thing that we like to manipulate in algebra are, of course, equations. So an equation is just the statement that says that two expressions are equal. So it's just expression equals expression. And sometimes an equation is true and sometimes it's false. If an equation has variables in it, then a solution of that equation is just a value of the variable or values of the variables if there's more than one that make the equation true. The solution set is the set of all the solutions. We talk about two equations being equivalent if they have the same solution set. And when we say we want to solve an equation, that means we want to find out what the solution set is. Not only find whatever solutions we happen to find, but also demonstrate that we've found all of them. And the reason we like to use equations is that they're very useful. We use them in a bunch of ways. These are just some examples of the ways that we use equations. We'll use an equation when we want to show that two expressions are equivalent. So if we've just combined like terms, we might say 2x plus 3x is equal to 5x. So we're using the equal sign to mean these expressions are equivalent. They're equal no matter what the variable is. We might use an equation just to define what a variable represents. So we might say something like, let x equal 17 to mean from now on, the variable x is going to represent the number 17. And then the way that most naturally occurs to us to work with equations is to somehow describe an unknown quantity. So we might say 2x plus 5 equals 13 when x is some number that we want to find out the value of. And these kinds of equations, the describing an unknown quantity equations, are the ones we think most about solving. What tools do we have to let us solve an equation? Well, we have the properties of equality. And these properties of equality tell us under what circumstances we get equivalent equations that have exactly the same solution set. We have the additive property of equality, which says that we can add the same number to both sides of an equation, and we'll get an equivalent equation. We have the multiplicative property of equality, which says that if we have a number that is not 0, then we can multiply by that number on both sides of the equation, and we'll get an equivalent equation. And then, this is something that we often don't explicitly state, we just kind of sneak it in. We have the symmetric property of equality, which means if we have an equation, we can switch the order. Usually the place we use this is if we have something like 5 equals x, that's the same as x equals 5. So if we've just done a bunch of solving steps and we ended up with our variable on the right, we can switch it to write our variable on the left the way that we like it. Now, notice that I'm very specific about the things that we can do here. We can add any number to both sides. We can multiply both sides by any number as long as they're not 0. These are going to give us our basic equation solving moves.